All right, our next reader is a special guest here this evening. I'm very pleased that Robin could come read for us. A Warren Wilson MFA. Robin Black is the author of the short story collection, If I Loved You, I Would Tell You This, published in 7 countries around the world. The book was a finalist in the Frank O'Connor International Short Story Prize and an O Magazine Summer Reading Pick. It also was the Philadelphia, I'm going to say this wrong, Athenaeum? I always, okay. Fiction Prize in 2010. It was a big deal, even though I'm mispronouncing it. I'm having problems tonight, I'm sorry. Robin's work has been shortlisted in the Pushcart Prizes, Best American Short Stories, Best American Essay, and Best American Non-Required Reading. Robin lives in nearby Ballackinwood with her family, is currently the Distinguished Visiting Writer at Bryn Mawr College, and is hard at work on her first novel. She also blogs on craft and on the strange business of being a writer at beyondthemargins.com.
See everybody. Thank you, Carla, for inviting me. It's an honor to be here. I love reading at the MFA program down the road, and I'm honored to read in this company. So I'm not going to read from my book, and I'm also not going to read from the novel I'm writing. I'm reading from something which has been a kind of long-term obsession of mine. It's a family story. The story, there are 3 characters, 4 actually, but there's a doctor, a father, and a son. And the father and son were my great-grandfather and great-uncle. So it's one of those, you know, there are stories that haunt families, and so this one has haunted mine. It's called, oh, and I should just say it's written in odd blocks, and I'm skipping around, so it won't be completely filled in. And the only thing you need to know is that when there's suddenly a woman, that's the nurse. So, okay. 1. Oh, it's called Quicksilver, Texas, 1915. 1. The floors are marble, black and white squares, though the black isn't true black. It's the green of the ocean when the sun is nearly gone and all the light of the day of the world has been pulled downward, downward, the way a rope is pulled, hand over hand. Even so, it's that black and white both men remember, that pattern neither can bear to see afterward, not even in its most benign context, a game board, the tile wrapping a kitchen wall. Not until the younger of the two, the doctor, coming home in 1919, looks out at the Atlantic all around and understands, finally, about the black not being black, understands that there is something in this other color, this deep and deepening green, much more frightening than all those chessboards he avoided, those games of checkers his nephews entreated him to play. How much simpler, how much too simple, it seems to him then, the thought of black and white, how empty of complexity, how empty of a villain, the black. While the father, not the doctor's father, but the father of the boy, will never have that thought, nor will he ever realize, as the doctor did all along, that he could not bear the sight of a black and white checkerboard. He will only feel repulsed each time the pattern appears before his eyes, and he will look away. 2. The point about the doctor is that he's young himself. Not as young as the boy, obviously, but young. That's why the father chooses him. That, in some sense, that he shouldn't take the boy to a doctor whom his mother and sisters see, not for this, if only to spare the boy that embarrassment, to spare them all. And anyway, he's certain that what's needed is a young medico, a man of science, up on the latest, who will know what recent progress has been made. Progress which the father does not fear. Progress which has always seemed to him a lawyer, a man of other people's contracts and wills and the deeds to their homes, a person of safe deposit boxes and codicils. Progress like a thing apart from his life, the great adventure of his age for which he is spectator only. Other men moving forward, other men creating the future as though it were broadcloth and they the operators of the loom. Other men. No, he doesn't fear progress or fear youth at all, but he does fear being overheard, does fear the loose quality of any communication other than face-to-face. So after telling the boy he would see to it, after telling him that it was a foolish business, but he was hardly the first to whom such a thing had happened, he picks up his hat and goes out for a stroll, because it is exactly this for which his intelligence is best designed, thinking through where the young doctor will be at a bit past 5 on a Wednesday, and just what route he might take home to the rooms he rents. It is this understanding of habit, the rule and not the exception, at which the father excels. Just this which is to him, though he would never say it, would never think in these terms, very close to a religion. This belief in the regularity of behavior, this faith that the doctor will do what the doctor always does, which is what any sensible man would do, and therefore can be known. Even as the Father admires those who push the bounds of the universe wider, even as he envies those who weave the fabric of existence into new designs, who question that the future must be what the present is, what the past has been, even as he wishes he were such a man, he is still very much the man who knows at what hour a man will leave his office, what route he will take home. Let's skip to 5. The father stays in the room for the exam, though he looks away as the boy's penis appears, taking out his pocket watch, not because he needs to know the time or even because he doesn't know the time. He does, it's just past 4. But because of an impulse, unexamined, to withdraw something out from his own clothing, out from himself. Maybe because he wishes he were the one needing care. Maybe because he senses that there is some mystical force at work to which he isn't paying quite enough attention. A sound he cannot hear but almost hears, that if he heard would explain to him that he should stop time right now. That time is about to matter more to him than it has before, and that the one equals the other, the penis and the pocket watch, the examination, the sweep of the second hand, the values are exchangeable, or they are on a collision course. But there is some responsibility he feels, but does not feel, as the boy has given over power, stands with his penis hanging out defenseless, and there is the watch in his father's hand, and maybe in the end it is only this, that they are both standing helpless in that room. 6. The doctor, who is not as open-minded as he tries to seem, but harbors certain feelings about young men who cat around and visit whores, who is in fact a somewhat priggish man himself, is revolted by the boy's penis with its telltale evidence, but envies him, the father, casually checking his watch, uttering no disapproval, and wonders, even as he feels a superiority that seems inevitable to him, how not to feel superior to this boy, what his own life might have been without the storm of a father he had, the man who in a similar situation, almost impossible to imagine, would no doubt have simply cut him dead. There's no doubt about what this is, he says. The doctor makes no mistake. He isn't the sort of man to make a mistake. In a sense, he has never had the imagination to make a certain kind of mistake. He gives the boy the right number of pills. He administers them properly. He cannot swear they'll cure the boy, but there have been studies done, and there is a good chance. It's not the only treatment, but it's the best, and the boy is a healthy boy otherwise. So he gives the boy the pills, 4 pills, and water in a porcelain mug that reminds the father of something from long ago, though he can't quite conjure the memory of what. Quicksilver, the doctor says, much better than arsenic. They learn a lot about this kind of thing during the war. How long does this take, the boy asks. It takes almost no time. It takes no time at all, because before he can leave that room, the boy is dead. He is 16 years old, and he is the man's only son, and the doctor has just held his penis, looking at it with pity, and he is on the floor, and he is dead, and he will always be dead, and it is too late, and it must not be too late, and there is nothing even to think, nothing either of the men can think, no possibility of thought or of speech. What is there to say? And no reason to leave this room ever. No life outside it important enough to go from here to there, nothing that is large enough to hold the fact of this boy being dead, except this room which is suddenly vast. and the man's watch does not stop, and the man's heart does not stop, but he is an old man now. While the doctor is becoming younger, feels himself slip into being a child, is on the floor, is kneeling, leaning over the boy, making sure, but then is sure, and falls back on his backside, his gangly legs before him like a little boy shooting marbles on this checkered marble floor, as though there were such an escape, such a choice he would make if he could. As sitting there, he can feel how he hates being the doctor, how little he ever wanted this, how terrible it is to be him here with this dead boy, how right he was to be angry, how the boy in his recklessness, his lustfulness has ruined them all, how it is not only too late to save the boy, but it is too late to save himself. 8. 4 of them in the room now. She could be a goddess, a fairy of old. She has no human role here. Hers is only to animate again. She is the spark that reignites and cannot reignite, like a divining rod, the quick from the dead. And it is so practical, so essential a role for a girl not 19 years old herself, whose new husband calls her silly names, teases her for how forgetful she is, wonders at her being able to keep any job, wonders that she does not swoon at the sight of blood, loves her for being, as he sees her, such a silly little thing, but who is now this force, this deciding force, telling one man, you are alive, just with a touch. You too, you are alive. And then the third, who is not, telling him that too, with just a touch. You are now dead, a dead boy, growing down into the marble of the floor, the white squares, chiseled pools of you, the black like some night awaiting you. And she is to be messenger beyond this room as well. It is she who walks 3 blocks through falling dusk, who turns a corner, knocks on a door. It is she who first peers into the home of the father and the mother and the sisters and sees how dark it is to become inside. And it is she, this silly girl, who is not that at all, or if she ever was, will never be again. The girl whose husband has called her goose and wondered at her easy way with truth, who says to the mother, I'm sorry, ma'am, who has come to this house because she sensed that time was running differently in that room with its checkerboard floor, not running at all. And she has taken measure of the men responsible, understands they are not truly there, and understands that she cannot restart the clock. I'm sorry, ma'am, there has been an accident. And it is she who will see the mother's face as it drains of all expression, an emptying she will describe that night when she is home, and then again in the morning to her husband, the blank of the mother's eyes, the flat of her lips, how she seemed almost to die herself, not when she heard the news, not when she learned her son was dead, but when she learned she was to learn and still did not know. This older woman, maybe twice the nurse's age, whose face for just that moment, so still, looked suddenly so exactly like that of her son in his motionless, expressionless death. And in the telling that night, the next morning, in the attempt to describe all of that to this husband of hers, she will know that she was wrong, not even a full year before, to marry this man, who looks at her with a kind of indulgence as she describes this face and then the other face, the mother, the son, will know she doesn't love him as she stops just short of telling him about the light wind, the one that followed her down those streets, the wind that seemed to rustle her alone and no one else, no leaves on the trees, no flags, but only her. The wind she felt would stop if she were to stop, but did not stop, and blew her there to that door, then gusted right through her breath as she spoke, so the mother's face could be touched by the air her son exhaled.